Welcome to Silicon Valley Buzz, the show where we discuss happenings in this, the most fertile spot on the planet for new ideas, the Silicon Valley. I'm Seth Shostak, and our producer is Janet Wu. Well, tonight, part 2 of our series on energy, renewable energy, energy conservation, so it's kind of green tech. And we'll be talking about putting solar panels on your roof and high-tech light bulbs in your ceiling. So this is bound to be an enlightening program. Why don't we get right to it? I have 2 guests tonight. We're going to begin with Randy Zechman. Randy is the CEO of Clean Solar, which I understand, Randy, is the Bay Area's leading solar installation company. That correct?
That is correct. Thanks for having us.
Okay, it's great to have you here on the show. And next to Randy, we've got Brett Sharenow, and he's the Chief Strategy Officer, but also the Chief Financial Officer. A lot of officer pleasure there. Yeah. Brett at Switch Lighting. And Switch Lighting is a company that's reinventing the light bulb.
We are. Thanks for having me, Seth.
Okay, it's great, both of you, to be here on Silicon Valley Buzz. I'm going to start with you, Randy, because after all, if we're going to change the lighting in our homes, first thing we're going to need is a little bit of energy to do that, and you've got a better way to supply that energy. Now, most of us are getting our electric power these days from PG&E, and they're getting that power by, or that energy really, by burning gas, right, here in the Bay Area, is that correct?
True, yeah. So it's brown energy typically in the Bay Area, where it's about 3% solar energy being produced in this area, and PG&E has the highest ratio of solar in the country. Actually, so much so that in PG&E territory is 50% of all the energy solar being drawn is coming from PG&E territory in California, and 25% for the entire country.
Okay.
And it's still only at 3% in the Mecca of solar.
Okay, so what you're saying that as utilities go, PG&E is ahead of the curve, right? Because 50% of the power they're supplying is coming from solar. Not 50%, I'm sorry, 50%, let's try that again. 3% of the power they're supplying is coming from solar, and yet they're ahead of most utilities in the percentage that is solar. But in other words, 97% of what comes out of my ready kilowatt outlet box here in my home, 97% of the power that I can expect to get there is coming from burning gas.
It's coming from non-solar entities. So there's renewable portfolio standards that different utilities have to meet, and in California we have the most aggressive in the nation, and our goal is to get to, I believe, 20% by 2020, and I think now we're somewhere between 10 and 12%, and solar's 3% of that. So you have other things like wind and dam power and other type of renewable energies as well.
All right, well, let's talk about clean solar. Yep. You put these panels on people's roofs. Now, does that make sense? I mean, environmental sense, clearly it makes environmental sense. There's no byproduct, no CO2 coming off the panels. But what about economic sense?
So the interesting thing about solar is for a long time, if you were an investment advisor and you were advising people on how to invest money, solar's been the best investment for quite some time, 5 to 10 years, as opposed to putting money in real estate or bonds or stocks or something like that.
You mean you get your investment back in 5 to 10 years?
You typically do get your investment back in 5 to 10 years if you're paying for it on a cash basis. The thing that's been interesting about solar recently is that banks have now come up with financing vehicles like PPAs, power purchase agreements, or leases or prepaid leases, these kind of things. And now people can get into solar by putting no money down and have a lower energy bill tomorrow. Okay,
so order of magnitude. I've got a single dwelling house here in the South Bay, right? You know, a little box that sells for, I don't know, $3 million or something, but whatever. How much is it going to cost for me to cover that roof with solar panels?
Well, so today the direction solar is going now, greater than 50% of the sales in solar now is you would pay nothing for it. You pay zero. And then instead of writing a check to PG&E or whoever your utility is, you write a check to an entity that's financing this for you, typically a bank or a solar company that's running the program. And so if your electric bill is over $100 a month, that's typically the drawing line. If you're over $100 a month, you will actually put no money down, and you'll pay less per month to run solar power than to buy brown energy.
Do I have this right, Randy? What you're saying is that I opt for solar, and my bills immediately go down. There's no upfront cost to me?
Exactly right.
Why isn't everybody doing it?
That's a great question.
Well, listen, we happen to have a little video here that shows some of your guys putting in solar panels. I think we ought to take a look at it and see what we're talking about.
Sounds good.
Should we do that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, if we can roll that first clip.
Clean Solar focuses on residential and commercial solar installations throughout the Bay Area. Clean Solar is really focused on quality, from our high-end modules like SunPower down to the microinverters that we use, cutting-edge technology, all the way to the little things like mounts and flashings. Only the best.
The favorite part for me was what the favorite part for everyone else, and that is to see that meter running backwards. And I would say, in getting our bills, we had a credit on our account. And in fact, our last bill in November, when the sun is low, was only $13.
So Clean Solar is one of the only companies actually that's offering a leasing program, an unsecured loan program, a secured loan program, as well as a regular sale for a regular purchase if you're just going to purchase a system. We have a 15-year warranty as well as a 15-year production guarantee, the longest in the industry. With Clean Solar, together, making a difference.
Pretty darn impressive. How big are those panels? I mean, they look like works of art there on the roof. How big is a panel?
Typically 3 by 5, about 15 square feet.
3 by 5 feet. Okay, and what fraction of the solar energy falling on that panel actually gets converted to electricity?
Roughly 15 to 20%.
15 to 20%. Okay.
Yeah, all the manufacturers are getting incrementally more efficient with it. So, you know, over the past 5 years, it's probably been 2 or 3 or 4% have been added to the efficiency of those modules.
Let me just throw a question here to Brett, because he's sitting here patiently. You know, you're going to talk about improved lighting that is much more efficient than the kind of incandescent lights that most of us have. If your average homeowner were to replace all their bulbs with your new kinds of bulbs, how much less electric energy they're going to use? Is it a drop of 5%, 15%? What would typically?
Well, the switch light bulbs will save about 80% in energy. So a perfect pairing with solar.
Well, yeah, but that's what I was going to ask. I mean, they're not going to save 80% because they've also still got the washing machine, the fridge, and everything like that.
True.
So they might save 20% or something.
Yeah, about 20% of the average lighting, of the average energy used in a house goes to lighting. So they're going to save 80% of that 20% for their household energy
Sounds like
bill.
a 16% saving. That's not enough to make this uninteresting, right? I mean, that's what I was worried about.
No, we're happy to see homeowners do all these home improvements like light bulbs like
Okay,
this.
well, let me ask you another question here then, Randy. I mean, you say these things are like 15, 20%, and that's the norm for solar panels these days. But what if I put these things onto my roof, and then 5 years down the road, they come up with solar panels that are 30% efficient, right? What do I have to do? Rip everything out and start again, or do I just, you know, live with the higher costs?
Well, so we ultimately like to use a interesting term for that, I guess. It's if we were waiting for computer technology to stop developing, we still wouldn't have a laptop, right? We wouldn't do that. So at some point you have to jump in, and I think the point is, in the solar industry, instead of really looking at it as a technology, look at it as you have to have energy in your home. You're going to pay for energy in your home, and so why not pay less for it? And that's where solar is today. So I think a mind shift needs to occur there. But you're going to rent power from PG&E or whoever your utility is for the rest of your life. Why not own it and have it be green at the same time, so you feel good about it and it saves you money?
Let me ask you this: where are these panels made, actually?
Well, they're made in lots of locations. About 60 to 70% of the modules are made in China now, so there's been a big shift over to China. We use some Chinese modules. We also use a brand called SunPower, which is the most efficient solar technology on the planet. And they're right here in Silicon Valley, actually. So they're based in San Jose, headquartered here, have a manufacturing plant here, and they're ARRA compliant. So the American Recovery Reinvestment Act compliant.
Well, I mean, many people will, of course, have heard of the Solyndra. I don't know if I should call it a fiasco, but if you read the papers, it sounds like one.
Yeah.
And, you know, is America going to stay in the solar panel manufacturing biz?
So SunPower is certainly hoping so, and you know, I'd say there's going to always be a percentage of that here locally. I think China will play a major piece in this, but I don't think Solyndra is, unfortunately, Solyndra's become the poster child for solar, especially for different people with different political interests. And so Solyndra is not the poster child at all. They're a very unique case that really their product just was not that interesting of a product. We looked at it before they got their financing, and we didn't think it was a good thing for our clients to be installing.
So it was just the wrong investment of the feds.
Yes, that's my opinion on it.
Okay, now you're in the installation biz. Are the majority of your installations for residential customers? Are they for commercial customers? What's a typical job for you?
Yeah, so we're about 80%. We're about 80% residential. Typically, a residential home will have 20 to 30 modules on it, about a 5 kilowatt system. But we've done some school jobs. We've done some commercial applications as well.
Okay, now 5 kilowatt. Now I'm thinking the average person uses, well, I don't know, that might be enough during the day actually to run your house if somebody's at home even. At 5 kilowatts, that's enough. But where does that power go at night? It doesn't. I mean, you obviously at night you're getting your power from PG&E. They're burning something because they're not taking this electric energy that they're collecting during the day that maybe they don't need and pumping water uphill and letting it run down at night, or big stacks of batteries or anything like that. What happens? How do you manage that?
So one of the things that almost all solar companies do is we encourage people to stay connected to the grid, because then you don't have to manage your energy like you're referring to, right? So during the day you will almost always spin your meter backwards, and the important part about that is when you get on solar, you switch over to what's called a time of use. So you now start paying for power at the time you use it. And so between 1 and 7 o'clock, you actually, if you're spinning your meter backwards, you'll get paid a higher rate for that energy. And then at night, when you're watching television, you're buying power at a cheaper rate. So the truth is, if you're going to use X amount of kilowatt hours per day or per year or whatever, you don't need that much solar power to have a net zero effect dollar-wise at the end of the day, and that's what really matters.
How big is your company?
So we've been around for 5 years. We're a local company in San Jose. We have about 3 crews right now. We have about 20 employees, and we're fast growing. I think that the niche that we're going after is really that quality niche. A lot of the solar companies that are growing fast, if you look around the internet on Yelp and things like that, they really get beat up quite poorly. And we've done a good job at focusing on every single customer, because it's really every home is a custom job.
Now, if I could get it past my homeowners association to put solar panels on the roof, I called you guys up and you came over. How big a job is it? How many days would you be out there?
The typical job is 3 to 4 days. The whole process takes about 2 or 3 months, but it's just like any building construction. There's time to do drawings and get permits, and then schedule the installation, then get inspection.
Okay, so it's not very long. Now, if you could look maybe 10 years into the future, I mean, you've got 3 crews out there, you're doing these things pretty quickly. 10 years into the future, what percentage of homes in the South Bay do you think are going to have solar panels on the roof?
So I'd say eventually the market will get to 20 to 40% of the homes will have it. Not every home is going to get solar. There's some that are under trees. There's some roofs that are too small. There's lots of reasons that you wouldn't get solar. But really we're at the infancy right now. We're still at 2%, and right now it's logical to install solar to almost anyone. I mean, a junior high kid could understand the math on solar now. And so, getting to 20 to 40% is really a big deal.
Randy, it sounds like the future's bright. I'm going to switch to you, Brett, as it were. Switch lighting. All right, interesting name, because you don't make switches.
No, we don't.
You're reinventing the light bulb. Now, tell me to begin with why anybody needs to reinvent the light bulb. Didn't Edison do a good enough job?
Edison did a great job about 130 years ago. We think we're actually going to be reinventing and are reinventing the light bulb again. We've got a light bulb that's got light-emitting diodes in it, or LEDs. And they are much more energy efficient than a standard incandescent, and we believe they will replace incandescents over the long term.
Okay, now, people are familiar with alternatives to your standard incandescent bulb, the one that, populates the New York City subways. This sort of looks like them. It doesn't look like those little curly-Q guys.
Twisty bulbs?
The little twisty bulbs. Tell me about a twisty bulb. I mean, wasn't that good enough to replace incandescents?
So twisty bulbs are called CFLs, or compact fluorescents. They are the regular tubes that you see in office buildings that they have taken and bent into a curlicue shape.
So it's just a fluorescent twisted up.
It's a fluorescent twisted up, and it's supposed to fit into a regular socket. You'll find that the shape is a little bit different than a regular light bulb. And what people have found with CFLs is they have a couple of fairly big drawbacks. They take a while to turn on. You turn on a light bulb that's a CFL. It normally takes about 5 minutes to reach full brightness.
Yeah, it takes a half a second or a second before you even see anything, right?
Exactly. They have a flicker to them at times. The light quality has certainly gotten better over the years, but the light quality is still not a very good match for a standard incandescent that we are used to in our homes. The big drawback about CFLs is they have mercury in them. And mercury is a toxic compound that contaminates the planet. CFLs are supposed to be disposed of in a very special way. And if you should happen to drop one and break it, there are procedures that are published to clean up the CFL, which includes opening up all windows and doors, evacuating your house for about 30 minutes, coming back in, putting on a mask, and using a dustpan and broom to clean up the particulates, no vacuums because that puts the mercury into the air, and then putting it in a plastic bag and disposing of it at a standard CFL disposal site.
Yeah, this sounds like it's more complex than when the government took little E.T. apart, I guess, in the movie. I mean,
yes.
that's pretty onerous just because you dropped a light bulb.
It is.
Now, just before I know you have a video here, and we want to take a look at that. Before we do that, though, just explain basically. I mean, here's one of these guys. How does it work? This doesn't, it doesn't have something hot inside that's glowing, right?
Right. A regular incandescent light bulb has a filament inside, and when you plug it in, that filament gets hot and glows white hot like fire. And the more electricity you put in, the brighter it gets. These bulbs have light-emitting diodes in them. They're semiconductor chips, just like a microprocessor that you would use in your computer. And instead of producing processing cycles to do calculations, they produce light.
It's like an LED pointer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about LEDs is they get hot, just like regular microprocessors. And the key to them is you have to keep them cool. We have something very interesting in our light bulb. In addition to the metal heat sink here that keeps the LEDs cool, we have a proprietary liquid that's actually inside of this glass dome. And just like your car radiator or some of the high-speed computers that are being used, this liquid actually cools the LEDs and allows us to produce more light and the same color light as a standard incandescent. So these light bulbs look identical to an incandescent in terms of their color, in terms of their room-filling light. So if you look at a lampshade with one of our light bulbs in it, you can't tell the difference between this light bulb and a standard incandescent.
Well, I think that we've got that in the video. Let's take a look, because one of my great objections to these curlicue compact fluorescent lights is that the color temperature is wrong, which is to say they're too blue,
Yes.
and they don't make me look good.
Yes.
And it's true that the incandescents don't make me look good either, because really nothing could, but they make me look better. So I want to see if these guys can pass that test.
Great.
Can we check out the
Sure.
video here? Well, maybe we can't.
We may have to do a demo here.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that.
We'll get back to
You
that.
see, yeah, I assume the light bulbs are a little more reliable. Well, actually, you have a socket here.
I
notice
do.
You've been not putting your finger in that.
No, no.
Maybe you could demonstrate. I mean, we can see it.
So I have two light bulbs with me. I have a 75-watt equivalent, switch 75, and the 75-watt equivalent only uses about 17.5 watts of power compared to 75 watts of power that a standard incandescent would use.
Just 5 times less energy.
Right, producing the same amount of light, though.
Now that's a bright idea. That's really nice. And it doesn't matter where you look at it, you get the light.
Right, so if you look down here, if you look at my hand below, you'll actually see a shadow down here. And that's one of the beauties of our light. The light comes fully around and comes down here so that if this were in a table lamp, you could actually be reading a book underneath the table lamp. Most LEDs you can't do that with.
Yeah, so it lights both the book you're reading and
the whole room.
and the mosquitoes on the
Just
ceiling.
like an incandescent.
Let's try that video again.
Great.
This video is so good.
So this is Switch corporate headquarters in San Jose, California. And what we do here is sales and marketing, and of course all of our administration. And then we also have all of our engineering, product development, operations, testing labs, quality and reliability and compliance, all contained in this one building. So what we've got here is 3 different lamps. And in the first lamp is a standard incandescent light bulb, standard 60-watt incandescent that we're used to. And you can see the beautiful glow of the light, and you can see how it fills the shade very, very nicely. In the second lamp, we have a CFL, or a compact fluorescent. Those are those twisty bulbs. They normally take half a second to a second to turn on. And then once they turn on, it takes them about 5 minutes to reach their full brightness. The other problem with CFLs, the majority of them are not dimmable. You'll also find that they have a tendency to flicker. But the biggest concern that we see is that they have mercury in them. And mercury is a contaminant that contaminates the earth, and we're trying to eliminate that. In the third one is our Switch light bulb. It's a Switch 60. It's a 60-watt replacement, and it is identical to an incandescent bulb in terms of the color, in terms of the beautiful room-filling light. So that you actually, if you look at the first one and the third one, you cannot tell the difference between those 2 lamps. They look identical. The beauty about the Switch 60 is it saves about 80% on energy usage over the standard incandescent. Last advantage that we see for our Switch bulbs is that they last 25 times longer than a regular incandescent. So one of the things that our light bulb has to pass is what's called a drop test. UL requires that the bulb pass a 3-foot drop test onto a hardwood floor. If I drop the incandescent bulb or I drop the compact fluorescent bulb, the CFL, you'll know that both of them will break if dropped from a height of 3 feet. If I drop this one and it breaks, we have a very significant cleanup process because it has mercury in it. We're now going to take our Switch bulb and drop it from a height of 3 feet onto a hardwood floor. And you'll notice that it actually bounces. Very astounding for a standard light bulb.
Fabulous. Well, I don't make a practice of dropping light bulbs in my house, but it does occasionally occur. And at least I don't, need to call out the hazmat people every time it happens with one of these guys.
No,
it's going to
that's
bounce. It's going to bounce. Now, how expensive is a bulb like this going to be? When a 75-watt bulb, I can buy an incandescent, or used to be able to, for on the order of $1.
Right. A standard incandescent light bulb sells for about $1. Compact fluorescents that are dimmable are about $18. We're used to a cost of around $2.50. The Switch bulbs, when they first come out, we're forecasting a retail price between $30 and $40, and we're forecasting that the price will come down to under $20 by the end of 2012. The interesting thing about that, though, is that for a residential application, the payback on this light bulb, similar to Randy's solar, is about 2 years. At a high price point of $30 to $40. As the price point comes down, the payback is a year or less.
Well, part of that is because these things last a lot longer, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of pieces that come up. One is they use 80% less energy, so that's the first piece. The second piece is because they last so much longer, you're not replacing either incandescents or compact fluorescents so long. For the commercial marketplace, hospitality and other commercial applications that use the light bulb, the savings are even faster because they leave their lights on longer than we do in our homes. A standard hotel, for example, leaves its light on for 15 to 20 hours a day for a guest room. And their payback is actually less than half a year for the light bulbs today. There's another significant cost that the commercial marketplace has to pay, and that's what's called relamping, or the maintenance cost to actually go in, unscrew the light bulb, and screw a new light bulb in. The last time I put a light bulb in my house, I didn't get paid for it. But in the hotels, especially in areas that are difficult to access, that are 30 feet up in the ceiling, and you've got to bring a forklift or a scissor lift out to actually get up there, the price of relamping can range from $30 to $50 per bulb per relamping. So very significant when one of these lasts for 25 times the length of a standard incandescent.
Okay, so putting all that together, I buy this thing, $30, I think, man, $30, it's a lot of money. But within 2 years, that bulb's making money for me compared to what I would.
Absolutely. The savings on the light bulb over the lifetime of the light bulb for a residential application is about $140.
Okay, look, I mean, Brett, I don't know, I got like 20 or 30 lamps in my house. Everybody has 20 or 30 lamps in their house, right? And then there are all the commercial establishments. This is not a niche product, right? This changes the world, this kind of product.
This does.
And you're doing this in San Jose.
Yes.
Okay. What's the future here? Are you going to change the world? Are you just going to sell the technology? What's the battle plan?
Yeah, we are actually planning to change the world with lighting. The beauty of the switch light bulbs is they look as good off as they do on, and we think that's a very significant plus for people purchasing them. Our desire is to get the bulbs out to the commercial marketplace as quickly as we can, get the volumes up, get the costs down, and be able to sell these for virtually every application, both commercial and residential, that we can worldwide. Currently, manufacturing is being done in the United States. We will also be doing manufacturing in 2012 offshore to keep the cost down, but we'll also continue our manufacturing in the United States for made in the USA types of applications.
Yeah, I mean, entire industries have been built on the light bulb for the last 130, what it was, 1879,
right?
Edison invents the light bulb. So that's a very big deal. Now, if I go to my local hardware or wholesale big box store, whatever, and try and buy a 100-watt light bulb today in California, I can't do it.
That's correct. In California, in January of 2011, the government put in place what's an effective ban on 100-watt light bulbs. The most wattage you're allowed to buy for that same number of lumens or light output that you got from a 100-watt light bulb is about 72 watts. That same effective ban goes into effect January of 2012, less than a month from now, throughout the rest of the country. What's coincidental with that is that the Switch 100, our 100-watt equivalent, producing 1,600 lumens of light, will be available around March.
It's fantastic. It's just fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to putting these things. I think they look cool too. I think I'll impress my friends, which is something that, to be honest, I don't often do. So the two of you guys, what do you think of this? I mean, this is going to be terrific, right?
Fabulous. There's been a lot of change in this space, and the whole movement to green energy and savings and all that within the home and commercially is this is a unique moment in time, I think.
It is indeed. Well, gentlemen, we have unfortunately, I'm tired of burning hydrocarbons for my electricity and getting my fingers burned on hot light bulbs. So I'm looking forward to all of this. You guys have been not only enlightening, but I got to say, I would have said more power to you, but I guess the correct thing to say is less power to you. I say Brett Sharenow and Randy Zechman, I want to thank both of you guys for being here on Silicon Valley Buzz, and I want to thank you all for watching tonight, and be sure to tune in next month when we'll have another episode of Silicon Valley Buzz. I'm Seth Shostak. Janet Wu is our producer. Thank you very much for watching.